The rain had already washed away the footprints by the time the billionaire stepped out of his black luxury car. People rushed past the old hospital entrance without noticing the frail elderly woman sitting quietly on a worn wooden bench, clutching a faded envelope against her chest as though it contained the last remaining piece of her life. Her breathing was slow, her hands trembled with exhaustion, and every passing minute seemed to steal another piece of her strength. Hundreds of people ignored her. The Millionaire CEO almost did the same. But just as he walked by, she lifted the envelope with shaking fingers and whispered a simple request that stopped him in his tracks. "Can you read this letter? It means a lot." He had no idea that honoring one stranger's final wish would completely shatter everything he believed about success, family, forgiveness, and the true value of a human heart. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still has the power to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Every act of support helps us share more stories that remind the world compassion is never wasted. Nathan Carter had built one of the largest technology companies in the country before turning 45. Business magazines praised his discipline. Investors admired his sharp decisions. Employees respected his intelligence but feared his cold personality. His calendar was filled months in advance, every minute carefully scheduled. He measured life through profits, meetings, and quarterly reports. The enormous mansion overlooking the city skyline was filled with expensive artwork, rare cars, and luxurious furniture, yet every evening it echoed with silence. Success had given him everything money could buy, but it had quietly taken away the relationships that once made him human. Years earlier he had buried himself in work after losing his wife to illness. Instead of facing grief, he buried it beneath endless ambition. Friends slowly disappeared. Family gatherings became rare memories. The world called him successful, but deep inside he carried an emptiness no achievement could erase. That morning had already been difficult. Nathan had visited the hospital to meet one of his company's board members recovering from surgery. As he left the building, frustrated after several stressful phone calls, his attention was fixed on another business problem waiting downtown. The elderly woman on the bench should have been invisible to him, just another stranger in a busy city. Yet something about her eyes refused to let him keep walking. They were tired but peaceful, filled with quiet hope instead of fear. She held the worn envelope so carefully that it seemed more valuable than all the luxury surrounding his life. The envelope looked decades old. Its edges were frayed, and faint water stains covered one corner. Nathan noticed that the woman's eyesight appeared weak. She explained softly that she could no longer read clearly and that there was no family left to help her. She simply wanted someone patient enough to read the letter one final time before it was too late. Nathan glanced at his expensive watch. His driver waited nearby. Meetings were scheduled. Investors expected him within an hour. Every instinct told him to politely decline and leave. But something unusual stirred inside him. Perhaps it was the memory of his own late mother asking him to spend more time with her before she passed away, requests he had often ignored because work always seemed more important. He slowly accepted the envelope. Inside rested a carefully folded letter written in elegant handwriting that had faded with time. The paper carried the gentle scent of lavender, preserved through countless years. Nathan unfolded it carefully, clearing his throat before reading the first sentence. The letter had been written nearly 30 years earlier by the woman's husband shortly before he left for a dangerous overseas humanitarian mission. It spoke not about wealth or achievements but about gratitude, simple dreams, shared memories, and endless love. Every line reflected a man who knew life was uncertain yet believed kindness outlived every possession. He thanked his wife for every ordinary day they had shared, from drinking tea together on rainy mornings to laughing over burned dinners and comforting neighbors during difficult seasons. He ended by asking her never to lose faith in people because even strangers sometimes become miracles sent exactly when they are needed. As Nathan continued reading, his voice grew quieter. Each sentence seemed to expose a part of himself he had hidden for years. The elderly woman smiled gently through tears, hearing familiar words she had treasured for decades. She did not interrupt. She simply closed her eyes and listened as though her husband were speaking directly to her once more. Hospital visitors hurried around them, unaware that on one forgotten bench two strangers were experiencing a life-changing moment. When Nathan reached the final paragraph, his hands began to shake. The husband had written that if he never returned, he hoped someone with a good heart would someday remind his wife she had never been alone. Love, he wrote, leaves invisible fingerprints on every life it touches. Those fingerprints become acts of kindness carried forward by people who may never even know each other's names. Nathan finished reading. The elderly woman thanked him with a peaceful smile unlike anything he had seen in years. She confessed she had memorized every word long ago but wanted to hear another human voice read it aloud one last time. Hearing it from a stranger made the message feel alive again, proving her husband's faith in humanity had not been misplaced. Minutes later, hospital staff rushed toward the bench. The woman had quietly slipped away, still holding the letter close to her heart, her expression calm and filled with peace. Nathan stood frozen. The world around him continued moving, but inside everything had stopped. For the first time in decades, he cried openly without caring who watched. The hospital discovered only a few personal belongings. There was no immediate family. Nathan found himself unable to walk away. He arranged a respectful funeral, insisting everything be handled with dignity. Few people attended, mostly nurses, volunteers, and neighbors who remembered her generosity. During the service Nathan learned she had spent most of her life caring for lonely patients, delivering homemade meals to struggling families, and quietly helping children whose parents could not afford school supplies. She had never been wealthy. She had simply believed every life deserved compassion. Those stories unsettled Nathan more than any financial crisis ever had. He began noticing how many people around him carried invisible burdens. The janitor working late every night. The receptionist hiding exhaustion behind polite smiles. The delivery driver supporting elderly parents. Lives he had previously overlooked suddenly became impossible to ignore. Weeks passed, but he could not forget the letter. He requested time away from business operations, something he had never done before. Instead of attending exclusive events, he visited community shelters, children's hospitals, and senior care centers. At first employees believed it was simply a publicity campaign. Yet cameras were never invited. There were no press releases. Nathan showed up quietly, listened more than he spoke, and slowly rediscovered the humanity success had buried beneath endless ambition. Inside his office, the framed awards that once filled him with pride now seemed strangely empty. He placed a copy of the letter beside his desk as a daily reminder that lives are measured not by income but by impact. Board meetings changed. Corporate policies changed. Employee wellness programs expanded. Scholarships were created for students from struggling families. Emergency funds were established for workers facing hardship. Volunteer programs became part of company culture. Investors questioned these decisions at first, but productivity unexpectedly increased as employees felt genuinely valued rather than treated as numbers. Nathan's transformation reached beyond business. He reconnected with his younger sister after years of silence caused by a meaningless argument. He apologized without excuses. They spent long evenings sharing memories of childhood and honoring the parents they had neglected to appreciate while alive. Forgiveness, he discovered, demanded courage greater than any business negotiation. Months later Nathan returned to the same hospital bench carrying fresh flowers. He placed them gently beside a small memorial plaque the community had installed for the elderly volunteer whose quiet life had touched countless people. Sitting alone, he reread the copied letter once more. This time every sentence felt less like someone else's story and more like instructions for the rest of his own life. News of the anonymous CEO's generosity eventually spread despite his efforts to remain unnoticed. Journalists searched for dramatic explanations, expecting a major business strategy behind his charitable actions. They never understood the truth. The greatest investment Nathan ever made had begun with a stranger asking him to read an old letter. Years later, thousands of employees gathered for the opening of a community education center funded entirely through Nathan's foundation. During the ceremony he spoke not about success but about moments that cannot be measured by money. He explained that one small act of patience had redirected an entire life. Had he ignored that simple request outside the hospital, he might have remained wealthy yet spiritually empty forever. The education center displayed a framed copy of the famous letter with permission from local caretakers. Visitors often stopped to read it. Many left inspired to reconnect with distant relatives, volunteer in their neighborhoods, or simply spend more time with loved ones. One handwritten message continued creating ripples of kindness decades after it had first been written. Nathan often wondered why fate had chosen him that rainy afternoon. Then he realized perhaps fate had not chosen him at all. Maybe opportunities to change exist around every person every day. Most people simply hurry past them because they appear ordinary. As Nathan grew older, he became known less as a billionaire and more as a compassionate mentor whose greatest legacy was encouraging others to see the invisible struggles hidden behind ordinary faces. Whenever young entrepreneurs asked him the secret of lasting success, he smiled gently and answered that the most valuable investment anyone can make is in another person's dignity. The old hospital bench remained there for many years. Countless strangers sat upon it without knowing the remarkable story connected to that simple place. Yet every now and then someone would notice a lonely person nearby, choose kindness over convenience, and unknowingly continue a legacy started by one final request. Perhaps the greatest miracle was never the letter itself. The miracle was that one exhausted woman refused to stop believing a stranger would still care enough to listen. Her faith transformed not only one billionaire but thousands of lives connected to him. One gentle request became an endless chain of compassion, proving that the smallest moments often carry the greatest power. If this story has touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, subscribe to Kindness Speaks, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these messages of hope reach people who may desperately need them today. Before you leave, we have one special request. Please write, "Kindness changes everything," in the comments if you believe even one small act of compassion can transform a life. Your words may inspire someone reading the comments to choose kindness when the opportunity appears. Because sometimes the most valuable gift we can offer another person is not money, influence, or success. Sometimes it is simply stopping long enough to read one forgotten letter, listen with an open heart, and remind another soul that they were never truly alone.